Hi guys, today we're at the Classica Refugium near Stuttgart, not far away from here. It's probably one of the best kept places in the automotive sector, the Porsche Development Center in Weissach. And as you can see in the background, today we're going to give you a special insight into the heart of it, the Porsche Design Studio. We will unveil exclusively some studies that have been well-kept secrets up to now. So here's a little sneak peek for, stay tuned for our Porsche Talk Unseen. I think this is a very good moment to unveil our first model because technology plays also a big role at this design study. It actually prevented this study from being developed further, but I think you have more details. So let's unveil our first design study, the Porsche 919 Street. So here is the beauty, and I think you can give us some more details about.
Yeah, as I said, when we talk about studies for the future, it's the idea is always to travel really 30, 50 years ahead and see what is possible and then going back, and that influences what we are doing today. And the starting point can always be very different. In that case, the starting point was the decision from Porsche to leave the Le Mans series, this LMP1 technology, which from the Porsche technology was extremely successful, was existing. And the idea there was, can we do a kind of street legal version based on that technology? And therefore, as you mentioned, the technology was existing, so the freedom in a way was limited, but then we were building around this car. And what is always our intention, that these models then are a starting point for discussion in the company, if it would make sense to realize this, to bring it on the street. And in that special case, it was as well the technology then was in the end avoiding to bring it to the road, because this racing technology is so complicated and highly complex that it would have been hard to give it really into customer hands.
Mm-hmm. According to brain scientist Gerhard Roth, 80% of the people are change aversive. That means simply that they don't like changes. And you have the master task not only to find the balance between habits and necessary further development, but also you're not allowed to change anything which is connected to the DNA of Porsche and of course to the model. So can you tell us something about the non-touchable parts of the design of Porsche?
Yeah, again, this is if we compare projects like production car projects, where we really have, based on our design principles or design criteria, we have certain things described that we basically don't touch. If we talk about this kind of visions for the future, since we go so far into the future, there are basically no conventions, there are no restrictions. Everything can be questioned. And by having this freedom, again, we collect some experiences that then might influence on our view on the current products. But it is to find this balance, to build up this tension between the history, the elements, the design elements, the design language is based on, and the task and the challenge to further develop it. So maybe that's really the most challenging part of my task, yeah.
But there are new things happening, and with the Taycan, the new sport cars era in an electric way came up. So what remained from the Porsche DNA still in the Taycan?
Yeah, I mean, the Taycan as well, let's say the car as it looks like, in a way had as well its origin in one of the studies. But it started as a completely different car with a completely different technology. So we did just a, let's say, super sports car with 4 seats, but it would have been hard to realize this with the performance customers expect from Porsche. So then a couple of years later, we pulled it out again and said as a proportion, as an architecture, that would be nice for being the first electrical car. But we knew as well that the design language was not modern enough. And then we looked at other studies that had been much further in the future and took elements from these studies and applied it to, at that time it was called the 960 Turismo, into this Mission E show car and then in the Taycan. So again, it is, sometimes it's just a design element, sometimes it's the whole architecture and proportion. But again, if you don't go into so far into the future, you won't have this, let's say, findings, and you won't have this experience.
Yeah, but you always have to work in the future because you design those future cars. How long do you take from the first sketch to the market-ready model?
One of the last secrets of the car industry.
Yeah, we're going to reveal today everything, literally.
Yeah. So again, it depends as well on the characteristic of the project. I used to say the really intensive time in the design department is 1.5 years. But if you, and then it's a question, when do you start to count? And when is really the start of production? But I used to say whenever we present a new production car to the public, the new 911, then in a way it's almost an old-timer for the designer because we already started to work on the next generation.
So you started to work on the Taycan years ago, and let's say if you started more than 7 years ago, it was very quiet on the electric market, at least at the customer's side or on the customer's side. But you really hit the bull's eye with the Taycan. So how do you get the feeling for the upcoming spirit and the time ahead?
I think that's again the beauty of that we as designers get this freedom to go so far into the future, where I think it's as well a great sign of confidence in our work that the board members or the CEO, Oli Blume, just gives us a budget without knowing really what will be the result. But since we have done this, as I said with the Taycan, we were then, when the decision was taken to go into this electrical world, we were much faster because years before we had already found an architecture that we believed then is very well applicable to this new generation. Again, this going into the day after tomorrow and then go around there, develop scenarios and concepts, then do studies like this, even as physical models, as a base for a discussion. And with this findings that change your state of mind. And with this, you go back to tomorrow. I think that's one of the keys for the success of the Porsche brand, that we do this.